How's it going?
Yo.
YouTube, Spotify, whichever else you are listening to this from. This is episode 4 of
Apple
Tables.
Podcasts.
Apple Podcasts as well. Episode 4, Table Zero. We made it. 4 episodes. That's not too shabby. We are being consistent. I'm joined by my co-host, Fi. How's it going, friend?
It's been going well. Being consistent is a very, very nice word to say, considering it's been 4 weeks since our last episode.
Has
But
it?
to be honest,
Has it been?
I believe it was March 2nd, and today is the 30th of March. Right now,
I think it's good.
But honestly, it's flown by though. It really has flown by because like we've been doing our own thing in between as well. So
Yeah.
it's been. I won't say it's felt like it's been a long time. I'll say that.
Yeah. It hasn't felt like a long time. That's why I'm like, yeah, we're keeping it consistent. I think episode 4, considering both of us busy men, doing other stuff as well, and some of the other stuff is attending regionals during the Phantom Nightmare format. Tell us a little bit. You got something under your belt for this season, right?
Yeah. I do. This is my second regional top 8. And I got second place at the Santa Clara regionals. So that felt pretty good, but I really don't know how I did it. You also got some, at least a decent result for yourself as well there, Galzo.
Yeah, but wait. Before we talk about me,
Okay.
let's hear a little bit about your experience. How many people were at the Santa Clara? I mean, it sounds big.
It was 550 players.
Holy
So
smokes. Second place.
yeah, that's just typically how California regionals are. They're
Yeah.
just absolutely massive.
Lot of
Like
people.
Los Angeles regional,
Yeah.
in LA, that typically gets around 800 players. So it's like a small YCS.
That's crazy.
So
It's a South
I mean,
America
hey,
YCS. It's bigger even.
it actually is
Sorry,
bigger than
no-
a South
no
American
hate.
YCS.
South America listeners, but yeah.
Get wrecked. What?
That's an
Oh,
amazing
burned.
accomplishment. That must feel so good, especially after the YCS, right?
Yeah. I think I tweeted out that I was on a revenge tour for this YCS.
Yeah.
After the YCS,
Yeah.
I scrubbed out really hard at Vegas. Our team went 1-3, and not that we just didn't get any luck. I'll just say that. Like we had no fortune in our games. Like I made one mistake, in a game 1, and then my opponent game 3 opened summon limit Ash Nib, and it's like okay, and then
That's a hand.
another game my teammate gets shifted twice, and there's a misplay that happens. So we just didn't get any fortune, right? We didn't get any luck to actually get us past the early rounds, and then we lose roll versus Manadium, a Manadium and Despia team. So you know how that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So
Two types
so
of
it's like no
FTKs.
fortune there. I got to go back on the revenge tour, and it's actually a 5-hour drive to Santa Clara for me.
That's
but I really
crazy.
wanted to play some Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
So
Well
I
done.
drove up.
Well
and,
done.
I put in the work though. I did put in the
Yeah.
work. Like I sat down for 2 weeks, and really played a lot of online Yu-Gi-Oh. I'll say that. So
I think it's really important to my regional had a lot less people, just because we're a much smaller community. But
Mhm.
I did not feel like I really tested this much for this regional. I usually am super diligent about putting the work at least in the week of the tournament, putting in the work, testing against friends. This time we were sort of because I came off an OTS championship win, so I was feeling okay, fire format, I'm gonna give fire one more shot just to see how it feels, and ended up placing 11th, which is not that great. We had a top 8, so it was X2 record, because we were kind of a small tournament.
right.
Really unfortunate because I lost to a huge misplay that just cost me a game and it was like time, and I eventually lost. I could have won it, but you know, when you take a monster with when you take a monster and then use Atlantis, the monster goes back to
to your opponent's field.
It goes back to your opponent. So I was like 50-50, which monster do I link off? Just forgot that whole thing, linked off the wrong monster, and then the judge was like standing behind me, Atlantis, and he gives my opponent back his lava golem. And I'm like, yes, that is a thing indeed.
I mean, it's a cool interaction because it lets you Zealantis OTK people on an empty board when you Charmer their monster.
That's
but
true.
Not when it was a little unintended, I would suppose.
Yeah. So I think coming out of that tournament, this is like our next talking point. Basically, I'm extremely tired of fire really, really quickly. I think I got burned out. Maybe it's also like personal life thing. Like I've been like drowning in work, so I couldn't put in the hours that I wanted into testing, which meant that, I mean, I'm not sure if the regional could have gone better, but to be honest, I'm like feeling the fatigue, I think, also from the format. How about you?
Saying you've been burned out by fire format is like the funniest joke you've ever made on this podcast.
That's the funniest? Man, I suck. I suck.
In like, how do I think about this format right now? I'm not necessarily burned out from the deck, but I will say that I understand why everyone else is. Because there's a lot of situations where if you're not playing like a high level game of fire, it really does feel like a bit of a sack fest. I'd feel like when, you know, you can almost compare hands if you're with an equal level opponent and see like, okay, I'm gonna hand trap here. And like I almost did it jokingly. Like I sat down and remote dueled a friend, and we were just like sitting down. We played a couple of games. And then at some point, we just started comparing hands because it just felt so dumb when, you know, 2 hand traps, you get full stopped. Yeah. That's the issue with the format is we're kind of split between hand traps right now. I do think the format is moving on a little bit from hand traps. If you look at my regional deck list, I chose to have a little bit of fun and decided not to play 15 hand traps and 3 crossout designator in the main deck. I decided to play a lot more engine and... I played Tactics Droplet in the main deck.
But you did you did play some hand traps.
Of course. I mean, you have to. Either that. I mean, you could play full board breakers as well. I did that for Vegas, but I didn't feel like I wanted to run that back necessarily.
It's kind of scary. Yeah.
It is always scary because you're kind of like at the mercy of your opponent. And again, I think we talked about it in a previous podcast, but the crossout designator problem where it just becomes set, solemn, strike.
Yeah.
But I played like a mixture, which is theoretically the worst approach you could have for the deck. Just in theory, it just doesn't really make the most sense. But look, man, I wanted to have a little bit of fun with the deck list. I played Where Art Thou for Magician Souls. I played Monster Reborn. I
mastered it.
Like,
yeah,
I was there to have fun. Droll's out of the format, so you can play Where Art Thou, so it felt pretty good.
Yeah, it's so funny that the Droll just disappeared. You were like, yeah, it's not good against that guy. Never mind.
Yeah, my deck was not optimal, but it was fun, and I felt like I could outplay my opponents with engine rather than than my deck requiring me to open 2 hand traps.
Yeah. Our pick so it was funny that you mentioned the comparing hands. My testing partner, we have like our group, which is basically like all judges, and they just don't play anymore. They buy the cards, we take the cards and play them. Right. And like one more friend who's like him and me are like the duo. We, for the first time like ever, I think I played an identical deck list to another friend at the regional. We opted to go for, we were like really strong believers in fire, in like Snake Eye doesn't need to play synchros, and Jet is an amazing card, but like we wanted to go for like a Nibiru proof board, really simple Apo Masquerade, Flamberge, like 5 other cards in hand, unbelievable, amazing. So we opted to go that route. We played that. Actually, like I've been playing a lot of Master Duel during the Duelist Cup, which is very similar in terms of like the build, because the cards like almost all there except for like SP and Bonfire basically.
Which
So we
just
opted,
released, but
which just released, and yeah, that game, we need a whole show for what I think about that game. We opted to play Fenrir's, and it was really, really good. It was really fun to have Fenrir's. It's just like an insane card. You add off it, you don't get punished by Droll. Send it for Diabell Star. Just really, really good. And then we decided to play Assembled Nightingale, because our community is like a lot of flute players, a lot of like, you know, shifter and stuff like that. We were like, yeah, the deck could play under, like, you know, you can make like a solid board under shifter, but we thought it was like kind of funny to make sure you don't die, because if it's Kashtira, then you might actually just like get OTK'd for like big bodies. And then on the drive there, I was like, listen, I've been thinking about this all night. I think we need the Zeus. If we're already playing the Nightingale, I think it's a waste. I brought us 2 copies of Zeus. We played it. Last round of Swiss, for the top, I get paired up against him, and he wins. That's after, like, we were testing. It was like 1 minute mirror matches, because it just sucks so much. It's like, yeah, hand drop here, goodbye.
To be fair, it is very important to, you know, the reason why I sat down and played like remote duels with my friends there is obviously like one minute mirror matches. Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Like a 1 minute mirror match.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were just like saying that's what your testing was like. Oh, but
no. When we played the mirror,
the actual match was just like hand trap, scoop, hand trap, scoop, and you know, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah. The match itself, I won the die roll, and I kind of let him break my board, because it's funny, because when you know the deck list of your opponent, when you know your opponent's deck list, it's really weird. And it's the last round of Swiss for the place in the top cut. And I was like, why did I have to get paired up with the person who's playing my exact deck card for card? That was so unfortunate. He went on to top. I ended up 11th. I'm ready to move on from this deck, man. Probably go back to Branded.
I mean, there are some fun things. You know, I don't think I ever mentioned it on this podcast, but I called Assembled Nightingale Mystic Mine.
I mean, it's
I used to
kind of Mystic Mine.
So going into Vegas, that was actually a strat that I was thinking about.
Yeah.
In fact, I side decked the Assembled Nightingale because in the mirror match, you can make it on top of your end board. Like you can do Flamberge IP with Assembled Nightingale on the field.
You just don't die from the OTK.
Yes, again, you just can't get OTK'd. It's Mystic Mine.
Yeah.
So, and
it's
then
a bit
the next
like,
turn you have like 5 cards in hand. So.
Yeah, it's a bit like Future Tech. You're going to be using this a lot. Next format, probably a little bit more. Maybe if Tenpai is like solid, we'll talk about that probably soon.
Yeah.
Later on in the show. But I think, regional experiences. Guys, leave it down in the comments below as well. Your regional experience from the season. We both played Fire, dabbled with Fire. I got an OTS win. I'm happy about that. Your second place is insanely good. So congratulations. And I think we can move on to the next portion of the show. Start talking about the format. Obviously, Fire. We know that already. What else is here?
I mean, right now, Voiceless Voice is like, I think has just established itself as like the tier 1.5 deck. Right now, I wouldn't even call this like this format perfectly tier 0. Like again, the other decks are playable, and you still have to play well versus them. It does kind of feel like tier limits, and you know the Fluanderies on the side, you know, chilling out, having fun. Maybe a Sprite deck here or there with like, if you want to think of like Despia in that slot. So, I mean, the other decks in the format, they're kind of established, but there has been a new challenger in these past couple of weeks here, Galzo, in response to you playing 15 hand traps and a bunch of little monsters in your deck. Yeah. People are putting Fossil Die and Apache Cephalo in their deck.
1200. Is it 1200 or 1300? It's 1200, right?
1200 attack. Well, infinite attack with Moon Mirror Shield. So I don't know what you're talking about.
That's true. Infinite plus 100. I think like I was thinking about this a few weeks ago, like before we came up with this idea for the show, because obviously everybody sees it that when you look at like a top cut from an open or from a regional of like the recent month, probably you'll see like Snake Eye, Snake Eye, Snake Eye, and then you see like Runic, and then it was like, what is this deck? You go out, you open the deck list, oh, it's actually Stun, and then you keep going, and then you see another Stun deck, and then Fluent Reason. Like every few decks, you see like a Stun deck. I was like thinking actually a few weeks ago, people are just mad because it's an annoying tier 0 deck with 1,000 hand traps. It costs $1,500, and they're like, no, Stun. $100 deck or whatever. I'm gonna stun your ass, and nobody's gonna get to play. And I think to some extent it's kind of working.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why it works. It's not necessarily like, oh, there's a tier 0 deck. Time to load up with stun. Well, obviously, when a format gets to have people playing anti-meta, it does feel very, you know, it kind of sucks in general.
Yeah.
But the stun is just genuinely a you know, format response to just how the format is currently playing out. Stun does not care about hand traps. Like, hand trap this Fossil Dyna. Like your Ghostmourner on my Fossil Dyna. Like, when are we special summoning, guys? So it's just good versus hand traps. The Snake Eye deck in general, if they're not playing Subversion, have no way, like no in-engine way to really contest the field, except for Poplar for Divine Temple, and then the Poplar's 1800 beat stick. They don't have anything that they can get.
If you get to activate the effect and resolve it.
Yeah. If they even allow you to do that.
Yeah.
It's actually the reason why I played Subversion in my side deck for the regionals, because I didn't want people to normal summon Fossil Dyna on me, so I wanted a searchable way to out it.
I'm also scared of Chaos Angel.
Yeah, I mean, Chaos Angel, it's mostly just existed for stun and other decks that just didn't put up negates on their field. But you can see that, like, stun has this way, but like, there's also multiple different variants of stun. I remember seeing GGYGO giving the praises on Twitter, like, holy cow, Horus stun, the best deck ever. Or, yeah, it's crazy stuff.
I was testing with him like the other night, and he was like playing the Horus lad stuff. We're gonna talk about like the types of stun that we're seeing. I think Horus is actually a surprising one to me. I think that I mean, it's a very solid format call. I think that it's similar to, like, you know, when back when we had Mystic Mine. It's funny that just like an extremely powerful. It's like it has the power of a deck on its own, like Mystic Mine. Just having the 3 Mystic Miners, like 1 Mystic Mine with a way of searching it, it's as strong as the stun decks are today. Because the stun decks are like, okay, you have Synchro Zone, so you can't attack over my Fossil Dyna or my whatever Inspector Border. And honestly, it is a really good meta call. I think it really sucks that, I mean, we saw in the last Master Duel ban list that they kind of addressed stun directly. Like, cards, I think Synchro Zone is like limited in Master Duel specifically because they just didn't want people to, you know, it's harder in best of 1. But
OCG
I think,
problems.
Yeah, but I think now you do have to consider it when you're deck building. I think you do have to consider that stun and back row and like spot removal for monsters, that you don't want to wait for the imperm to draw it in your 40 cards and have to set it and then hope it resolves the next turn and just like bet everything on one turn. You do want to make sure you have some outs to it. But it's not even only the Pachycephalo, right? We mentioned Horus a few minutes ago. And I think it's so interesting that a combo engine is now evolving into just like the best stun engine, because not only it puts up insanely large bodies on the board, it allows you to just like tribute summon like really interesting floodgates for free.
Yeah, I think tribute summon Lat is very funny. I actually played against like what probably was just a prototype of this deck at Vegas in the side events. Like, this wasn't even a known deck at this point, but in the side events, I was just playing against this guy. We were playing the 3v3 side event, and I was playing against this guy who was just activating walls. He went Rainbow Bridge to search walls of the Imperial Tomb, to search Imseti to get to his Horus engine. And I'm like, all right, man, you do you. And he goes to summon Giant Trainer. I imperm the Giant Trainer and he passes. So I'm like, I'm like wondering, what am I playing against?
Yeah.
Like, I have no idea. And like, I just, the Sekai combo, end the game. Game 2, he just like, I think he like missed off a danger. He was danger or something like that. He's trying to dig for lat. That's what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
But I had no idea what he was trying to accomplish, so I just killed him twice. And I'm like, what are you playing? And then he shows me the Light and Darkness Dragon. I'm like, holy, what on earth is this? So,
Yeah.
good thing he didn't get to summon that on me. But yeah, I'm not sure about the Horus variant, if that's the best one, because it actually, in my opinion, loses to more hand traps. I don't actually like that. Because if you get ashed on Imseti, that just turns off your entire deck.
Yeah. It even
That's why
just
I
has
think-
the possibility to lose to hand traps, which regular stun usually doesn't have. Like Duality, Card of Demise, sure, but otherwise, it's not your engine.
Yeah, there's also the Johnny Nguyen deck, the Asian Persuasion deck, where it's normal summon Fossil Dyna Turbo.
Yeah.
That deck is like, I hate that deck with the burning passion. I just think Runic Stun is the best way to play it. I have more personal anecdotes with Stun. Running around.
I think Runic.
Because.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, I have this personal anecdote because again, for this regional, for those who don't know who Brian Shen is, he goes by Yuchi Hongroi online. And he's a very well-known online player. He's played Labyrinth for most of his playing career. He's done a lot of testing with Ryan Yu. He's the winner of YCS Portland 2019. And I was sitting next to him for basically that entire regional, hoping I was gonna dodge him. We were joking the whole time, like, yo, it's like, come play me, bro. He's playing Runic Stun. He is playing Runic Stun the entire time. He's going Card Scanner, add Runic Tip, activate Tip, banish 4. Next turn, Card Scanner, add Runic Tip. It's so dumb. I was like, what is this? And I also lost in the exact same round as him as well. I lost next to him. He lost to Voiceless Voice. But it was very scary. He ended up getting 3rd place at that regional. But but I watched him play Runic Stun the whole day and just make people rage.
That's so infuriating. Obviously, I think that I do agree that Runic is the best variant. I think the fact that you have a very clear win condition and you don't have to rely on your opponent giving up, right? You don't necessarily have to consider time. Like, you can be super proactive. As you mentioned, Card Scanner. If you guys don't know what this card does, it's just a common that is like a retrain of an old card. I don't remember what the name was. But it basically, you call the type of card at the bottom of your deck, and if you're correct, you add it, right? It's a normal spell. It was released in Age of Overlord, and it works perfectly within the Runic strategy because you stack your bottom, and usually at the bottom of your deck, but usually people wouldn't pay attention to like, okay, 3 to the bottom, but now you just, put the tip at the bottom of the deck.
Tip, the best part in your
and
deck,
then like call
deck.
Spell, and it's really, really nice. And then it's just like plus 1,000. And then you can get like,
also stack
you're
your
like
opponent as
proactive.
well.
Yeah, and you're like proactive about, you actually are in the driving seat in this matchup, where usually in stun, you're just waiting for your opponent to rage and like, okay, I don't have an out for this. Let's go game 2. Which is creative and cool. And I think Runic kind of mellows out the toxic. Maybe it doesn't mellow out. I've been getting a lot of comments.
Wrong,
It's the exact opposite, right? It's the exact opposite. People hate Runic. I'm kind of like, okay, it feels kind of fair, but okay. I don't know. I think I'm personally, on a very personal note, I absolutely hate this type of gameplay. I understand why people like, and people can say like, it's legal, the cards are legal. I don't really see a point of like, why would you take the time and money to go to a tournament and like do that? I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe that's just me.
A lot of people talk about playing stun, but no one actually really goes out to play it. I actually I took a look at the results like format wide, and while there's been a lot of like talk about it, there hasn't actually been a lot of tops.
Yeah, because
it
has a lot of
stun is
problems.
actually a skillful deck. Well, it's also not necessarily like the Fossil Dyna Turbo version of the deck, I think, but like playing Runic Stun is very difficult because you have to actually understand when you want to have your explosive turn. We're gonna go like draw 3 with Fountain, then we're gonna go Demise, then we're gonna go Duality, and we're gonna have to manage the cards in our hand. You also need to
manage the cards. Come on, dude. Come on.
You actually do, and you have to actually play around your opponent's win conditions because you can't just like hunker down and pray that he's not gonna draw his Cosmic Cyclone.
With that, I agree. I agree with that. You need to think about like what happens if, and you do need to like, you do need to acknowledge that there's an opponent playing on the other side. I think that's what people. It's a misconception about stun, where if I draw like the 2 floodgates I need, it'll be over there and then. But your opponent is, is gonna play with conviction, and if you're not ready for like, outsmarting them. And like they're gonna have a goal on their mind, and while you sit back in your chair with a few traps laying face up on your field, like your opponent could out it. So it takes, honestly, like calling it skill. I don't know about that specifically, but just like some awareness of the game state. But we can agree to disagree. I don't understand like why. Like no hate to stun, or maybe some hate to stun players. I don't really care. Like you can comment below what do you think about this, but I don't understand like even if those decks are legal, and it is legal to play these types of decks, like why waste your time and your opponent's time like on such like strategies? I don't really understand. Like, do people get like enjoyment for that? Probably just like. You see your opponent rage. I don't know.
I am just really happy that all the floodgates are currently at 1. That is one of the best ban
Not all of them
that Konami has made. I mean, obviously, summon limit should go to 1. Anti-spell should probably go to 0. I don't want to even like. I don't even want people to sack that card. But like, I just hope all those the floodgates go to 1. If they were at 3 right now, this format would be so horrible because like everyone would just be. You'd play decks. It would actually, it's kind of happening right now. I have it a bit in my rogue radar right now, but if your deck can play Rivalry of the Warlords, you should be playing Rivalry right now. And thank God that card's at 1 right now. If that card was at 3, this format would be horrible.
So anecdote, my buddy that we played the same deck in regionals last week.
Right.
So he makes it to top 8, and for some reason, I'm sure you guys had only Swiss, probably, right?
Right. We had 10 rounds of Swiss.
Yeah. So our judge was like, let's do Top Cut, because it's like it's not that many rounds. So preparing for nationals is coming up. Let's do it for the
deck box now.
You get a deck box either way. I mean, you get a deck box even if you don't do Swiss. I think even the prizes are like
top 4 only got the deck box.
Yeah, but Top Cut, I mean single elimination after Swiss.
Right.
Yeah.
For fun. Yeah.
It's basically for fun because it doesn't matter. Like everybody makes top 8, and I think the prizes are even given out by the Swiss, by like what you ended up on Swiss. Never mind. So round 1 in like the top 8, he goes against Labyrinth with Snake Eye. And his opponent did, in fact, draw the 1 Rivalry of Warlords. And it is basically an FTK. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. It is incredibly strong. It's a little bit more infuriating because the card is at 1. However, I think that it's good that Konami, in the past year, is acknowledging the fact that those cards are a problem, right? Because up until now, they would come and go based on what deck is, like, ruling the format. And it was like, 3 is fine. OCG is doing the same thing. Master Lu is doing the same thing. They're probably going to do it to some extent because I think those tools allow newer and weaker players to participate in the game, which is important to increase your audience, like the size of your audience. It is important. I do understand that those are financial decisions. Otherwise, like you wouldn't even have printed cards like this. But there are stun strategies in other TCGs. So, you know, if you're playing stun, God bless you. I hope you live in good health and maybe consider picking up a new deck.
Yeah, keep yourself safe, as they say.
Yeah, I think this format is like completely, it feels very solved to me. Just to wrap up, like almost wrapping up the format snapshot here. I'm still on the intro slide. Never mind. You haven't seen anything.
Get wrecked.
This was format snapshot up until now. And yeah, okay. From my point of view, the format feels very solved. And it's mainly because of the amount of hand traps in people's decks that are, in my opinion, kind of like preventing innovation from taking place too much. What do you think about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's most. I think people are getting tired because you can't just, like, for me, I think one of the big issues with my regional deck list and playing a card like Where Art Thou is you can't really play more engine. It's like, oh yeah, with the thought process that, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna play more engine to beat the more hand traps. And while it did happen, like there was a game where I played through like 3 hand traps. He went Ash, Mourner, Oak, Ghost Ogre on me, and then I went Activate Souls and just full comboed him. But there is a lot of you can't necessarily do that. That just doesn't really work because even like you're not always invalidating the hand trap. So like that's why a lot of people have pivoted to Fenrir, because Fenrir invalidates all the hand traps.
Yeah.
Like you just summon Fenrir. And hey, I was right, by the way, on that Rogue Radar. I believe, was that at the start of this month where I talked about Fenrir?
Did you call Fenrir?
I think it was. Yeah.
Well, I ended up coming back to Fenrir, so I was like, yeah, it makes sense. It's full circle.
Last episode's. Let me just see. I could actually look at our. Yeah, I was in our tech check. Yep, I called Fenrir.
Ding ding
I
ding 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 ding. Fi's getting points. Write it down for him.
Easy clap.
Yeah. You called it.
But like you just can't play more engine. It just doesn't work. You can't just say like, I'm gonna play more engine to beat more hand traps. At least in the Snake Eye deck, because you only have so many pushes with the deck that you have to like go Where Art Thou for Souls is your last thing, and you have to like draw 3 cards of engine. It doesn't work. It's not a consistent strategy.
Yeah. I think we're gonna wrap up the format discussion because we're already like 30 minutes in. There's plenty to say about the format, but I think when is Rally?
That is in 3 weeks from, or is it 4 weeks? It is April 21st.
Okay, so it's like a month, less than a month away. I'm gonna say that Raleigh is gonna be played under a new. Sorry, it's gonna be playing under the current ban list after a ban list already was announced. That's what I think.
No, they're gonna announce a ban list at the event.
No, not at the event. It's gonna be like YCS Leon. I think it's gonna be like Leon. Like they're gonna announce it a few days or like a week before. It's gonna go into effect after the event. And the reason is because it's gonna be like Legacy of Destruction and Phantom Nightmare legal both at the same time, and like play Snake Eye Diabellstar for like one event, and then they're gonna probably chop it.
Hold on. Legacy of Destruction is not legal for Raleigh.
Never mind. Scratch everything I said. Let's go to the next segment. No, okay. Yeah, I don't know. People are kind of sitting waiting.
Part.
That really sucks.
That is the saddest part. That's the saddest part about
How? Why didn't they schedule it? Oh my god, that sucks. Oh, have fun, buddy.
It feels. I'm not going, unfortunately. I had some stuff come up that prevents me from going.
Okay.
But from the people that I talk to, it really does just feel like a very dead event.
Unless there's a ban list before.
Yeah, but even then, like the week after, Legacy of Destruction comes out. So like, why? What are we doing? Why are we here? So it becomes like this I call it a Wild West format, where it's basically a format that only matters for a week.
Yeah.
And then we'll probably never
Yeah.
ever think about this format ever again.
Yeah, YCS
and no
Leon.
one's gonna go out there and solve it. Yeah. That's YCS Leon. Yes. I
Yeah.
called that Wild West format. That's where
Yeah.
that's where I first made up the term. But
Yeah.
if it's gonna be a Wild West format, it doesn't really feel like it's worth attending or even preparing for. I say go out there and do it because it's the last event of the format. But we
Yeah.
don't know if there's even gonna be a ban list or not. There should be, but maybe they're gonna announce it after the event. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we'll probably have an episode that's closer to YCS Raleigh, so where we can actually make a better judgment. But from where it stands right now, as of March 30th, 2024, that event looks. Ugh.
Yeah. And also, as of March 30th, 2024, Konami doesn't schedule their ban lists in the TCG. Good job, Konami. Speaking of Legacy of Destruction, the next core set in the TCG is coming out at the end of April, near the end of April.
Okay.
And it is exciting. I think next Friday we're going to have some reveals from the set. Some of you may have seen some things online already, which we're not going to address here. However, if you do know these, leave it down in the comments below because you can't get banned. People don't know who you are. Besides that, I think Legacy of Destruction is kind of cool. I think it's not as format warping, but I think it does have the potential to be relatively impactful. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I think we could hit on this just quickly
Yeah.
about like what's coming out. In it, I think a lot of people are looking forward to the Tenpai Dragons deck that is releasing in that. At least I've taken a peek at it. There's Melodious support, which is supposed to be like tier 2 to tier 1. A couple of Yubel cards that make Unchained playable. We'll have to find out.
It's called Fiend Link. It's called Fiend Link now.
Yeah. Fiend Link. Yep, that's basically what it is.
Yep.
If you put 2 fiends on the board, you make Yama. That's it.
And you win the game, basically, from there. But now it's with Yubel. I think Tenpais are probably on the radar to being very good in terms of like competitive meta threat. It could be a very good shifter deck, just like stun OTK. It's like, for those who don't know, it's a fire dragon deck that has a field spell that lets their monsters be unaffected during the main phase, and everything basically happens.
They combo in battle phase.
They combo during the battle phase, and on an empty board, they produce 37,000 damage if you let everything go through. So even if you're under 4 prosperities stacked one on top of another, you still kill within 8,000 life points. It is combined with, it is a going second strategy, which is something that doesn't come up too often in Yu-Gi-Oh! And it also relies on a lot of cards that will make sure your opponent doesn't have anything on their board. This is why in the OCG right now, they started playing Droplet and Assembled Nightingale and cards that will just make sure you live, because Tenpai usually runs, besides Shifter, things like Heat Wave, which skips your turn, essentially, which is absurd.
Yep.
I'm excited for the illusion stuff. We're getting a very strong illusion starter in Nightmare Apprentice. Do you know this card?
I think I saw it. Give me a refresher.
It's basically Apprentice Illusion Magician. You discard 1 card to special summon it from the hand. It has the same stats as Apprentice, and on summon adds 1 illusion from the deck. It's
not bad.
Potentially a very strong card in the future. Now it's probably going to be like a little bit Chimera Pile. Yeah, interesting. We're going to talk about Legacy of Destruction probably in the next episode in a little bit more of a deep dive, because that's going to be like probably on the agenda, hopefully, when we record. But I think for now, like in terms of time, we do want to talk a little bit about tech, right? We do have 3 YCSs coming up within a month. 2 of them are South America. 1 of them is Raleigh, I think. Medellin, Colombia is this weekend. It's happening right now.
it is going on right now. Actually, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure a couple of threads are going on from like some of the top players. I know like players like Kamal Crooks, and Hani Jawari are currently there, or not Hani. Is it Hani? I believe yes, it is. It is Hani Jawari. Those guys are over there playing, so we'll get to see back from them. Yeah, but shall I dive into the texts that
Please
have
do,
been
sir.
cropping up across some
Please do,
regionals?
sir.
I was thinking of actually doing this myself for the Santa Clara regional, and that is playing Bystials in the main deck. I think this has kind of been running around. It's mostly for decks that can utilize the Bystials as good link material. You don't need to, like, I wouldn't recommend, like, as Voiceless Voice, necessarily main decking Bystials. But the idea is that you can go ahead and you can Bystial the IP for Snake Eyes, and it's always good because I think that's always the best interruption for the Snake Eyes deck is the IP Masquerena going into SP and then allowing the Flambers to float. Now you don't necessarily have to worry about that, and it's very strong against Branded and Voiceless, which are the other two top decks, and just a variety of random rogue strategies as well. So I personally enjoy them a lot because I like cards that are just engine hand traps. They're an interruption and they provide you a body. Which honestly, I don't know why people think like Bystials are necessarily unhealthy for the game. I think that kind of hand trap is actually like I think there was Joshua Smith was talking about it, but he wants more cards like Phantasme in the game, which are just like card advantage hand traps. I like Bystials as they are, as in terms of these card advantage hand traps. One of my favorite cards in the game. And yeah, I think they're actually like very viable right now.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree. I think that I was playing around with the idea, and I think it's actually I found that it was kind of hard to resolve against Snake Eye specifically. It's good in Snake Eye because of the pure advantage that a Bystial can give you. Besides, like cards in hand, it's a body on the field. It is an interruption. You know, different Bystials do different things. You also play like a multitude of them. It's a really, really strong engine. Like these cards are absolutely great, and I think they're also relatively fair. Usually, against pure Snake Eye, sometimes when you try to like banish their IP, they already have an Appaloosa. So you might not get the Bystial, but you get rid of an Appaloosa negate. I think it's absolutely fair.
And you just use it next turn.
Yeah, and you can use it next turn on like exactly the same spot. I think it's fine. Yeah, as we mentioned, and since you already talked about it, I think I really enjoyed Fenrir. Beast of a card. Really absolutely amazing card. I really like it. I'm still contemplating which card is the best card of all time. Snake Eyes Ash or Fenrir. It is a discussion to be had, right?
I guess. I think Fenrir in the Snake Eyes deck, like if you're playing a ton of hand traps, I always think that like Fenrir should be in the slots. Like if you have 18 on engine slots, right, in your pure Snake Eyes deck, Fenrir should be in the slot of your like if you're playing like, you know, standard meta deck, should be in your 15th to 18th slots.
Yeah.
Instead of something like a crossout designator. I think Fenrir is just really good. I don't think it's good in every deck, absolutely. But Fenrir has its usages in a lot of situations. At least for decks that can fit the non-engine, Fenrir should be a discussion.
Yeah, Fenrir is good. I put this in Tech Check for some reason. This is not Tech Check, but I just wanted to call it out. It might be future tech, but Summon Sorceress is probably going to be back on the next ban list. Before we move on to Rogue Radar, I do want to get your 2 cents about this, about Summon Sorc and the errata.
I mean, everyone's already been cooking with it in the Fiend Link deck. At least with the errata. For those who don't know what Summon Sorceress, I didn't even play when he was like, well, I played sort of when he was legal, but I never really got to experience the toxicity. But I believe you summon a monster from your hand to your opponent's side of the field, and then summon a monster from your deck with the same type as the monster that you summoned from your hand to your side of the field. Now the new errata on the card is that you get type locked into the card that you summon.
And they're both
now.
negated.
And their effects are both negated.
But previously,
so
the monster you gave your opponent
Knight from the deck.
Yeah, the monster you gave your opponent wasn't negated, so you can put a Nimbly on their board or whatever, right? Now they're both negated, and I think now there's also a difference where it's all one effect. So you can just Ash the entire thing and then nothing happens. It is has been reprinted in the new rulebook that they usually tend to release every year, and usually they would also unban a card with an errata in the rulebook and have it like as a promo for the rulebook. We're probably going to discuss it in the future. I think personally, like, erratas really suck, especially if you change the effect so much. I mean, it just doesn't really make any sense. If the card is strong, then leave it on the ban list. And if you want something different, then just write it and print another one. I don't know. It's like, okay, it's not the same card anymore. Enjoy it. Let's go over to Rogue Radar. What's on your mind for this week?
Boys, we're running it back. And it's not just because it's Master Duel. I've been brewing. I've been stewing these last couple of days. But it is Unchained with a singular Shavara. Oh, God.
Tell us about that.
If Shavara ever comes back to 2, by the way, this deck is now all of a sudden tier 1.5. But right now, the deck with so many effect negation hand traps in the meta right now, the deck does just have a format advantage with the cards that are being currently played. As long as you don't run into Fluandereeze, which is like a 90-10 matchup that you will never win in your life. But you know, it's for Unchained, at the moment, you do have to fight. By the way, it's not like a deck you can just go jam at locals like, oh yeah, I got the cards, let's go run it. You have to play absolutely out of your mind. But with the ability to play Rivalry of the Warlords, like I was talking about earlier on this podcast, and with the ability to play cards, obviously Wave King is still a card that is in print, and if you end on that card right now, it is very hard to answer that. The deck still has very much the same power level. It just can't play through the through Nibiru as easily. But the reality of the situation is you're not even trying to go first anymore with this deck, because its ability to go second and play through fire fields is absolutely mind-boggling. It's really, really good. So I'm gonna put my chips onto Unchained. I'm gonna lab it up for this next week to see what the deck can do and actually try to get good at the deck. But that's my 2 cents.
That's extremely interesting. So a couple weeks ago, I had like the OTS that I won. The same, like the week after, we had another OTS at a different store. So I pull up with basically the same deck. I was like fresh off a win, so I was like, no, I'm gonna test too much. Let's see like if the meta is still the same in this OTS. So round 1, I go up against the guy who won the last regionals that we were in, and I win the die roll. I go full Fire King Snake Eye combo, whatever, you know, play my things, and then he goes normal tour guide, and he absolutely wrecked me. He wrecked me. I would say he's a good player. He's very good with the deck. He's been playing it for a while. And, you know, between like very strong engine cards and the fact that I can't pop anything on his field and the fact that they can play a lot of board breakers and power spells, like he was siding in Ultimate Slayer and it absolutely whooped my ass. It absolutely destroyed me like 2-0.
Yes.
He was playing out of his mind. And honestly, like everything that I did was just like felt not even worth it. Like hand traps didn't feel good enough. Interruptions, especially the Fire King interruptions, like I'm not gonna pop anything. Like, do you expect me
right? You want to pop my field?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like the mirror, right? You don't really. No, I don't want to pop your. I don't want to pop your Kirin. No, I don't want to pop your Aruha, whatever. So it was a very uphill battle, and I think I've been hearing, like I've been watching like Josh's videos, Sometimes he's like, yeah, bring Shavara back to 3. I personally say absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think that it is there because it deserves to be there, because the deck is extremely powerful. And let's see how you deal with one Shavara. I mean, I believe in this deck. I think you're right on the call of like, this is a good rogue deck. And, let's run it. Let's see.
You have to play well. You have to be a very good player. Also, you said he normal summoned Tour Guide. I wouldn't even be playing Tour Guide in the deck right now, obviously, with again with everyone and their mother playing Imperm Veiler right now. You probably would rather just play Triple Rakea at that point.
Yeah.
But I mean, okay, but with that aside out of the way, yeah. I mean, it's like, what was I going for on this? Yeah, I mean, right now, again, it would be tier 1 deck if Shavara was at 3 right now, and
that's why it's at 1.
and you have to, back to the point. You have to play out of your mind with this deck. You can't make a single mistake because you don't have the get out of jail free card of an extra Shavara in your deck.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to maintain, like, okay, I had to keep a floater on my field at all times, because if you don't, or find a way to maintain, your next push, because if you run out of gas, you're gone. You're done. The game's over. So
yeah,
it's really tough. That's why I like Nico Schleierkampf in Germany. He got like 9th place at another huge German regional playing the adventure package in Unchained as well. So they're like a variety of
that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, let's get some reprints for some Unchained cards, and I think everybody's gonna be happy. I'm happy to like see some reprints.
Bro, Abomination's prisons are only like $8 right now, guys.
Are they?
They're hot.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
You heard it here first. However, Unchained Soul of Rage is $1,000, and Yama as well. They're kind of expensive. I think
Yama got expensive for no reason. Not for no reason.
There are reasons. Yeah. More support coming in the future. So guys, keep an eye out for that. I think really well put, Fi. I mean, it's as if people pay you to talk sometimes. That was pretty nice. We are coming in on the 55-minute mark very soon, so we're gonna wrap it up here. Lastly, I didn't change the scenes, guys. I'm sorry, guys on YouTube. I'm sorry I didn't change the scenes with the titles. You will excuse me, and I will compensate you at a later episode. Last topic, as always, random stuff in your mind, Fi, going up.
What's going on in my brain? I'm trying to process a single sentient thought. You got me beat there. Hold on, come back to me in a minute.
I'm maybe taking Sky Striker to locals this week. I want to see how that works. I mean, I love Ray. I love Sky Striker Ace Ray, and I do.
Should I make a song on it?
I do love her, and I have loved her before he did. No, I haven't. But I think it's fun. I think I'm going back to being locked into purple cards for a while. I mean, I need to go back to my comfort zone. I'm like, if anybody listening to this wants a Snake Eye Core, hit me up. I'm done with that. I'm done. I'm really tired of that. But we got some events happening that I think there's not going to be any coverage for up until Raleigh. There is a YCS going on right now as we're recording this in Medellin, Colombia. There is another YCS in Guadalajara, which is in 2 weeks from now, I believe, which I'm not expecting coverage for. And then there's Raleigh at the April 24th, you said?
Yeah, I believe it's, I just gotta look at the calendar really quickly to see which weekend exactly. It is the 20th to the 21st.
Mm-hmm. So hopefully I would really love for another episode, hopefully before Raleigh, or maybe a watch party, or maybe there's going to be a ban list. Who knows? We're going to have some fun. Fi, I have returned to you after 1 minute.
Tenpai Dragon is not going to be a real deck here in the TCG. That's my 2 cents. I'll yap more about it on our next episode.
Okay, write that down. Write that down.
But I've been working with the cards, and I'm like, there's got to, like, I don't think there's. It's very unless Blaster comes back to 3, which is possible.
Why does it need to be at 3?
Because if you banish it, you
Hey,
add a
Gold
fire
Sark,
dragon.
you
from your
Gold
deck to
Sark
the
for
hand.
1. I mean, it's okay.
I mean, yeah.
We have 3
I don't
prosperity that the OCG doesn't have. We'll see.
In the TCG, your deck gotta go first. I'm just saying. So
I agree.
That is the problem.
I do
You
have
don't
the same
best
doubts.
gun card.
I do have the same doubts, but we're definitely going to explain on that on the next episode of Table Zero. So signing out for now. Last words, final words. That's it. You're not going to say anything after.
I mean, yeah, you can put if you Gold Sark goes back to 3, but then that kind of becomes a little terrifying. So maybe
Rarity
not,
Collection 2 has a Gold Sark, so we'll see.
Just saying, if you want to sell the Tenpai cards, just saying.
Just
All
saying, bring it back everything to
Gold
3.
Sark to 3.
Thank you.
No more ban lists.
That was the last ban list. Yes. That's it for us for episode 4 of Table Zero. This was a blast. Hopefully you guys are watching on YouTube so you can see our beautiful faces. And if you are, then you go to the description of this video right now and check out Spy's channel, which is far more interesting than the channel you're on at the moment. So I really advise you to do that. Also, we are on some streaming services that are audio only, like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And I'm sure Fi is going to take care of all of that once we're done with the show. Surely he is. Thank you so much for watching or listening. We were Fi and Galzo, and we will see you in the next episode. Peace.